I want to talk about one of the most underrated things when it comes to getting bigger and stronger, and this is the difference between training a muscle and training a movement. Alright, so we know that there are multiple things that influence how strong we can be. So stuff like our range of motion, our leverages, our genetics, our fiber type, and a lot of other things. However, there are a lot of things that we cannot change when it comes to getting stronger long term. And however, there is something that is one of the most important factors when it comes to getting stronger long term, when you're more intermediate or advanced, which is muscle mass, right? So in a practical sense, if we want to improve our squat long term, we have to grow our legs, which is the prime mover of the squat. So there is so much that you can improve your technique up to a point until you cannot improve that anymore. I mean, you cannot get more efficient up to a point, and then you just have to get bigger and stronger, you know? So following up with the example of the squat, if I'm doing a heavy 1RM or a single of my lower competition squat or even my high bar squat, I don't care much if I am activating my quads or not. I don't care if I feel my quads doing the work or if I am doing more of the work with my hamstrings or my adductors or my glutes. I really don't care as far as I can get my movements to be as efficient as possible, you know? So get the bar over my foot, just maintain stability all the way through, not tip over when squatting, all of the things that are not very important for this video right now. So basically just moving as efficiently as possible. I don't really care if I'm maximizing activation of the quads or if I'm minimizing fatigue of my lower back or any other thing. However, if I am doing something like a goblet squat or leg extension or like split squats or anything like that, I am looking for hypertrophy there. So I don't really care if I'm maximizing the weights on the bar with a split squat. I don't really care. So that's a huge difference, and I think many powerlifters or strongman or weightlifters, so people that are seeking ultimately strength, I mean, they don't care much about hypertrophy per se, just about hypertrophy to get bigger. They treat those movements as if they were the competition movements. So if you're an Olympic weightlifter, you know that maybe squatting with a bounce is not the most effective thing for hypertrophy, but it's more specific, so they do that. If you're a powerlifter, you know that maybe for hypertrophy it's not the best to squat low bar and have a more forward angle in the torso, but you know that's going to get you the most results in terms of weight. So we already get enough mechanical tension and heavy work on our, because of course heavy work is important for hypertrophy, on our movements and our muscles, through our competition movements. So it's important that when you're doing your hypertrophy work, your bodybuilding work, accessories slash whatever you want to call it, you try to actually minimize load and maximize activation. So for instance, when I'm doing something like a heel elevated goblet squat or front squat, I'm trying to maintain my torso as upright as possible. I'm trying to control the tempo on the way down because I don't want to get my knees more beat up than they already are through heavy squatting. I just want to stimulate my quads. So I'm going to try to move slow, try to activate my quads as much as possible. If I feel like I'm using my glutes more, so I feel the activation of my glutes, I try to maybe internally rotate my femur, maybe get my knees more forward. Something that's going to help me minimize the involvement of our muscles, because the more muscles you get into the movements, the more likely you're going to be to move more load, right? So, and that's what we want with movements. We don't want that with muscle training, you know? So another way you can actually look at this is efficiency. So when we're training for strength and we want to move the most amount of load that we can in the movements, we try to be as efficient as possible. So if we're deadlifting, we try to get the bar close, we try to bend the knees as much as we can without kicking the bar forward to get the quads off the ground to help us with the weight. For instance, if we're doing a deadlift for hypertrophy, I wouldn't be doing that. I maybe would switch for something like an RDL where the range of motion is longer for the hips. I'm not using my quads as the floor. Maybe I'm drifting the body a bit forward to get more torque towards my hamstrings and hips. And all of the things that when training for hypertrophy, we try to make it harder for the muscle to get the muscles to work harder. You know, if we're training for strength, we want the muscles to be as less compromised to move the load as possible. So if we are doing a squat with our knees very far forward, this is heavier for our quads to move. The knees have to do more force to extend the knee. Our quads have to do more force to extend the knee, right? So that's better for the quads, but it's not good to move more load. If we, on the other hand, are more balanced. So our knees are forward, but our hips are also a little bit back too. We can get a little bit more from both. So the quads help extend the knee and the glutes help extend the hip. So then we get a little bit of help from both sides, and then we can push more load. If I'm training for hypertrophy, I'm probably not going to do that because it's not the most efficient thing for the quads and it's not the most efficient thing for the glutes. If I'm a bodybuilder, I would better just do front squats or heel elevated squats and maybe do like hip thrusts or RDL, something like that. It doesn't mean if you're a bodybuilder that you cannot train heavy. I'm saying that if you train for strength, treat your accessories as accessories. Don't treat them as competition movements. Do slow tempo, control the movements, try to make it harder. If you can, try to focus on mind-muscle connection, that's huge. And all the things that are, of course, contrary to the way you normally train, but are going to hugely help in not only getting bigger, but also minimizing fatigue. Because if you're using half the load on your accessories and you're stimulating more the muscle, you're going to be less fatigued due to the load, but you're going to be more stimulating more muscle fibers than where you were maybe originally doing, if that makes sense. So I hope the video was easy to understand somewhat. I hope if you have any sort of question, be sure to ask me down below. If you subscribe and like the video, awesome, thank you, it helps very much. And I'll see all of you in the next video. Thanks for watching.